Welcome back to Expedition Haunts. So far we've spoken about the scare zones, the shows, and now it's time for the houses. Halloween Horror Nights 28 offered more houses than ever with 10. It is time to go through each of these in order of my least favourite to most.
This is your emergency broadcast system. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use.
The Horrors of Blumhouse 2 featured scenes from Happy Death Day and the first Purge. The house began with Happy Death Day, where you witnessed a college student trying to break a murderous cycle from the babyface killer, before heading back to the first Purge night. As a fan of both of these movies, this house was the biggest letdown for me. Located in the relatively new Men in Black tent came one of the poorest facades ever created. A significant step down from the previous year's entrance to the repeated scenes from Happy Death Day, it just felt like something was off. And while the story took you through the same day, going through the same room wasn't exactly fun or scary. The first Purge also had a random mixture of sets, some not even related to anything in the movie. The scare actors did a great job of trying to bring this house to life, but it was by far the least enjoyable of the event for me, and a significant downgrade from the previous year. While I am going to rank the rest of the houses, just know that the quality between them is so close that some are essentially equal. The houses this year at Halloween Horror Nights 28 offered such a consistent and fun experience throughout and were all great. Officially announced way back in April and located in Soundstage 22, which has featured iconic IP houses for multiple years, Halloween Horror Nights took you deep inside the haunting world of Stranger Things. Easily the most popular house of the year and also winner of House of the Year, with lines normally over 100 minutes long. A faithful recreation of the first season of the show waited inside with hardworking actors who looked exactly like their show counterparts. The house began inside Hawkins National Laboratory, as with the opening scene of the show, and taking you through iconic locations such as Will's house and into the Upside Down. As a fan of the first season of the show, I feel like while a good house, I expected a little bit more. The sets were very well detailed, but none of them really stood out as overly impressive. I also did not really enjoy the end of this house, which took place in the Dark Void, but while walking through it was just black corridors. Some simple fog effects inside would have created a more immersive ending to the house. Saying that though, this was a great recreation of the show and I am excited to see season 2 return. In a Horror Nights first, the house was open for day guests to Universal after Horror Nights had ended on Stranger Things Day, for one day only, and was still extremely popular. Trick or Treat returned for the second year in a row, but this time as a house. Located in the Parade Warehouse, inside awaited impressive sets, familiar props, and Sam. Lots and lots of Sam. While outside, the sign features Sam also, once you stepped in, you were instantly transported into the movie with Mr. Creek's house. Featuring detailed sets of houses and woods inside, complete with 2 different buses, one made from paper mache to end the house. This was another great retelling of the movie. The only downside was that quite a few of the props were recognisable from the previous year's scare zone. It's always great though to see a return of the werewolf puppet, now with a new brown paint colour. Evil had once again returned in an all-new house based on Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Skipping Halloween 3 for obvious reasons, this house was the extra house added when the amount was increased from 9 to 10, when a second show was not given the go-ahead and the Shrek Theatre remained intact. While not the most detailed house, it was one that could be very scary and catch you off guard. While the sets were a downgrade from the previous 2 Halloween houses, I still enjoyed it and some of the effects inside were very impressive, and you can't go wrong with lots of Michael Myers.
Slaughter Cinema presents a bloody B-movie marathon, all in one place.
It was also showtime at the local drive-in where you didn't catch the movie caught you. Located in Sprung Tent 2, this house had a great facade showing specifically filmed movie trailers to the different movies that awaited inside. The smell of popcorn awaited as you entered into the snack bar, featuring different B-movies within. When designed, they came up with so many ideas that they had a tough time bringing it down to the final featured movies. The list of movies inside were Devil Dogs, Pumpkin Guts, Shitty's Kids, Cult of the Beast Baby, Sorority Sacrifice,
Amazon cannibals from planet Hell. Eat your heart out, men.
Barber Chop, Attack of the Swamp Yeti, and of course,
Midnight Snacks 2, The House Swarming. You're my little buddy! Midnight Snacks 2, The House Swarming.
the concept for this house was great, and it would have been higher in this list for me, but some of the scenes and movies featured were a lot better than others. Either way, I'm sure this house will return with new concepts at some point in the future, and I welcome it back to see what other B movies they came up with. Carnival Graveyard Rust in Pieces was perhaps my most anticipated house coming into this year's event. The place where carnivals of yesteryear would go to die, but you didn't want to trespass upon this salvage yard. Featuring some of the most aggressive actors for scares and impressive sets, complete with throwbacks to multiple props from previous years scattered within, this was a house that you would need to go through multiple times to spot everything. I was expecting more large fairground style rides, but the amount of props including throwbacks from Run, Giggles and Gore, Dollhouse of the Damned, and more, as well as the guest activated triggers, made it always a fun walkthrough. The barrel scene in the early days of the event was one of my favourite scenes of the whole event. It was later changed to a hanging body due to the amount of barrels that got damaged and had to be replaced almost nightly. The effect did return though towards the end of the event with a different style barrel. On the last night, a sign is reported to have been moved that just said "I am back" next to a ticket booth. Perhaps this could be a hint for the return of Jack, or maybe even the usher. Humanity is extinct and wiped out by a meteor. In its wake, something monstrous has taken root in Seeds of Extinction. Featuring a facade with the now iconic school bus, complete with founding fathers on the side from the previous year's Purge scare zone, this house also featured throwbacks and Easter eggs to the houses of the past, as the Desert Valley Mall was overrun by plants. A very multi-story house and very wet inside, with scenes all around you and above you, hiding the attacking plants within. Some of the Easter eggs inside included Jack and Eddie's Somewhere, Lightning Gulp, and comics from Ultraviolet Comics. While it appeared that some of the plants inside were on stilts due to the wet nature of the house and for safety, they were actually wearing a backpack which rose up above them and around them to create the illusion of the giant plants within. The previous version of Scary Tales has been in my top 10 houses for a long time, and this year again did not disappoint. From the incredible facade to the costumes and creatures within to the puppets, this house was one of the best. Scary Tales Deadly Ever After took the Wicked Witch of the West who had cursed the land, twisting it beyond recognition. Starting off heading into the witch's castle, complete with a chained up Dorothy, through Hansel and Gretel and onto the little pigs, this retelling of classic fairy tales was not only creepy, but a visual treat.
It's so yummy in my tummy!
The only room that I feel like could have been a little bit better was the Little Mermaid room, but other than that, every single room hit the mark and ended with the classic Halloween Horror Nights bear chasing you out of the house.
Where's your wizard now?
More dire news from Europe. The French military announced an immediate end to all evacuation efforts. Officially locked.
Fear is spreading.
Enter or leave.
He means
The pandemic has ravaged the entire population.
with signs of the disease spreading beyond
A
Europe.
breakthrough inoculation.
Containment facilities are going up.
side effects.
All transmission. The French captain's men dead today.
Another city goes dark.
Fear would infect you and plunge you into darkness against a plague of zombies in Dead Exposure Patient Zero, telling the story of a zombie outbreak in Paris and the cure for the infected giving you temporary blindness. Located in Sprung Tent 1, this unique concept house where strobe lights would go off on a timer to create the sensation of not being able to see. While it may not have featured the most detailed sets of the event, it was by far the scariest house. If you went through this in the day before your eyes had adjusted to the dark, the experience was unlike anything else offered at the event. Guests seemed to either love or hate this house though due to the concept, but the house created a feeling of unease throughout. If you had asked me what would have been my top house before the event started, there's no way I would have chosen Poltergeist as that option. Recreating the 1982 movie, the restless spirit that overran the house atop a cemetery would lure you into a place between life and death.
You son of a bitch! You left the bodies and you only moved the headstone!
From the moment you entered inside the soundstage and you hear the famous line from the movie, the incredible facade and the feeling of the rain falling down on you inside the swimming pool, you knew something special was going to be inside. Featuring some of the most unique effects, puppets and sets, this house was not only one of the best of the year, but for me, of all time. Traveling underground and heading up into the house, this retelling of the story showed the highlights from the movie, really made you feel like you were part of the events happening around you. Taking you for the first time into the other world, Poltergeist for me was the best house of Halloween Horror Nights 28. Halloween Horror Nights 28 increased the house count and still provided the most detailed sets of any haunted attraction in the area. With a variety of different styles, scares and effects, Universal created one of the best lineups ever seen at the event. Halloween Horror Nights will have to offer something incredibly special next year to create a collection of houses as consistently spectacular. Overall this year for me was a mixed bag, but offered some of the best houses the event had ever created. The only thing left to do now is to speculate what awaits at Halloween Horror Nights 29. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Haunts. What was your ranking of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights 28 and what do you want to see come to the event next year? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe to join us on the expedition. While this is the end of our Halloween Horror Nights 28 coverage, we have a lot more planned for the history of Halloween Horror Nights with an expedition up next to Cary, Ohio. We will see you next time.